For all its beauty and splendor, the wilderness can be a cruel teacher. Paragliding offers an extraordinary way for human beings to soar in the boundless expanse of the sky. While exhilarating is not without its harsh realities and inherent dangers, it is a sport that demands respect for the unpredictable forces of nature and the unforgiving consequences of human error. Those who embark on this airborne adventure must confront the stark truth that their pursuit of thrill comes with a significant risk. Please click the subscribe and like buttons. This is Outdoor Disasters. Paragliding, an exhilarating adventure sport, involves flying a lightweight, foot-launched glider with a fabric wing and harness. Participants, known as paragliders, navigate the sky using wind and thermals for flight. Beyond being a mere sport, paragliding propels enthusiasts into a realm where the sky becomes an expansive invitation to dare greatly. Taking flight on fabric wings is a testament to the courage within each paraglider, propelling them beyond their comfort zones into the extraordinary. The roots of paragliding trace back to World War II parachute development. Experimentation led to the creation of more maneuverable parachutes. In the 1950s, engineers like Domina Jalbert developed ram air parachutes, enhancing control and stability. NASA engineer Francis Rogallo's flexible wing design, the Rogallo wing, played a crucial role in modern paraglider canopy development. In the early 1970s, mountaineers adapted parachutes for recreational flying. Jean-Claude Betom and André Beaune modified parachutes for controlled descents from mountains. The first true paraglider flight is often credited to David Barish in 1965, but it wasn't until the early 1980s that paragliders gained popularity. Pilots like Jean-Marc Boivin and Laurent de Calbermatin showcased the sport's potential. Paragliding technology advanced rapidly in the 1980s and 1990s, with materials like ripstop nylon and mylar improving durability. Design enhancements, including elliptical canopies, contributed to stability and control. Competitions emerged in the 1990s, featuring cross-country races and aerobatic events. Safety standards and certifications made paragliding more regulated. Today, paragliding is a well-established worldwide adventure sport, attracting enthusiasts of all ages. Ongoing advancements in materials, safety features, and design continually shape the evolution of paragliding equipment. For Ewa Wiśnierska, her paragliding ordeal would be a nightmare. Ewa Wiśnierska is a German paraglider of Polish descent and is considered one of the best paragliders in the world, male or female. Her journey into paragliding commenced in 1991 at the age of 20, when she witnessed a group of paragliders gracefully launching into the air. Intrigued by their effortless ascent with the subtlest control of their parachutes, she initially hesitated to try it herself. However, it wasn't until 9 years later, during a visit to her family in Poland, that she seized the opportunity. At her brother's suggestion, they enrolled in a paragliding course together, and from that day forward, she was captivated. The first time, I just pulled the glider above my head and then made a few steps. And I could feel like something was lifting me, and I lost the ground. I was like maybe 1 meter above the ground, but it was incredible, like, wow, I got some wings. And this was really a great feeling. I loved it. I didn't really know what to do in my life. When I started paragliding, it was like a virus. I couldn't get rid of it, so I changed everything. I decided to live in a car just following the competitions, so everything in my life was around flying. In just 4 years, she ascended to the pinnacle of the sport, emerging as one of the world's top-ranked paragliders. Her achievements included clinching the German Paragliding Championship and securing numerous World Cup victories, solidifying her status as a star in the sport of paragliding. Amidst the accolades, one elusive accomplishment remained: the World Championship, hosted in the paragliding mecca of Manila, Australia, in New South Wales. This region has become highly enticing for paragliders worldwide, featuring an exceptionally elevated cloud base, dynamic thermals, and the prospect of covering extensive gliding distances due to unique weather patterns. Success in this area hinges on both skill and favorable weather conditions. The sport's allure lies in pushing limits, undertaking measured risks, and consistently striving for excellence. At the age of 36, Ewa committed herself to continuous involvement in competitions, aspiring to achieve victory in the World Championships hosted in Australia. 6 months prior to the World Championships, Ewa encountered a significant setback when she suffered a severe accident in Switzerland, resulting in a shattered pelvis. While this kind of injury would immobilize most individuals, Wiśnierska, fueled by her tenacity to secure the elusive championship, embarked on an intensive physical rehabilitation journey. Within a few months, she successfully restored herself to peak condition. In February of 2007, in anticipation of the upcoming event, Ewa actively engaged in the XC Open, a cross-country paragliding competition held at the location of the World Championship. Her objective was to familiarize herself with the terrain and challenges, ensuring she was well prepared for the impending competition. Wiśnierska set her sights beyond claiming the female title. She aimed for the top overall placement. Andreas Malekai, her training partner for the past 3 years, was confident in her capabilities, asserting, "Ewa is a very important pilot, one of the best in the world, and she will outperform not only the female competitors but also the male ones." The event, characterized by endurance rather than speed, demands participants to cover the greatest distance to win. This necessitates a blend of both physical and mental endurance. In cross-country events, pilots have the liberty to choose their flight direction as they aim for the farthest possible landing point. At 11:30 a.m., the pilots initiate their launches from Mount Bora, approximately 30 minutes after the briefing. At this juncture, around 60 pilots take to the air, predominantly heading north. Paragliders leverage thermals, rising columns of hot air, for altitude gain. In cross-country flights, they utilize these thermals for ascension and prevailing winds for gliding between them. Clouds play a crucial role, acting as uplifts to enhance their average speed. Pilots strategically target larger clouds to optimize their cross-country speeds. To secure victory on that day, the pilots must adeptly navigate with a full tailwind, flying towards emerging clouds and surpassing them before they evolve into a line of thunderstorms or larger cellular formations. Success hinges on skillfully harnessing natural elements and swiftly adapting to evolving weather conditions. To secure victory on that day, they would have undoubtedly needed to fly with a full tailwind, steering towards the emerging clouds and surpassing them before they transformed into a line of thunderstorms or potentially larger cellular formations. Following the launch, paragliders assemble into groups known as gaggles, and with a southerly wind prevailing, the majority of pilots in the first gaggle choose to navigate north. Given the ticking clock, they must swiftly maneuver past the regions of atmospheric instability that lie ahead. 60 minutes into the launch window, the German team, including Ewa, prepares for takeoff. Opting not to launch very early, they decide to let some pilots fly ahead, marking the air and thermals for smoother navigation. Ewa conducts pre-flight checks and sets a GPS track log for recording. Acknowledging the southerly winds, the team plans to fly north between the forming clouds. Although the clouds were observable and scattered at takeoff, there was no imminent danger apparent at that moment. Ewa's friend, Austrian paraglider Gerald Amasider, already harbors concerns about the potential development of thunderstorms. Upon arriving at Mount Bora, Gerald senses an impending challenge, unsure if the day will unfold safely. Despite this intuition, the pressure of competition motivates him to participate, highlighting the complex dynamics at play in paragliding events. The risk of freak storms looms as one of the greatest challenges for elite paragliders, an element beyond their control. Nevertheless, Ewa launches into the air and into the void she goes. While the day may have seemed like any other, this day would be one that would live in infamy. While airborne, the pilots maintain constant radio communication with ground crews, facilitating weather monitoring and retrieval planning. Initially, the journey unfolds as an uneventful cross-country day. However, clouds gradually intensify above, leading to a division within the group. Ewa finds herself positioned towards the rear of the lead gaggle. Flying alongside Ewa, Gerald acknowledges the impending issue with the clouds, but adheres to the strategy of navigating between them and heading north for as long as possible. To their right is He Jong-pin, a member of the national Chinese team and one of the world's best. Although some pilots successfully navigate past the developing storm, a small cloud poses an obstacle for Ewa and Gerald and the prospect of clear skies. The initially promising conditions take a turn as larger clouds grow rapidly, casting a dark shadow and raising concerns among the pilots about potential risks. Gerald is getting worried. Ewa, witnessing the ominous clouds, shares her concern as well, expressing, "The two big clouds are growing really fast. We could see that it was getting very dark, so we knew. We are playing with fire now." The sky in front of the paragliders presented a picturesque scene with attractive cumulus clouds. Optimistically, everyone believed they were swift enough to soar away from the impending cloud. In the XC Open, pilots are empowered to make their weather-related decisions, a crucial aspect of personal safety that can be pivotal, sometimes even a matter of life and death. The pilots were situated in the rear group, and it was evident that a substantial line of clouds was taking shape ahead. Most pilots in the rear group opted to initiate a landing at this juncture, covering around 60 kilometers or 37 miles of the journey. Informed by the realization of the unfolding situation, the decision was made to communicate this vital information to Stefan, the team leader, highlighting the potential challenges ahead. As dozens of pilots descended, the severity of the storm cell became increasingly apparent. Typically, storms evolve gradually over several hours, but today, the clouds swiftly expand, shaping a series of cumulonimbus cells or thunderclouds that can produce hail, thunder, and lightning. Should these cells converge, a severe thunderstorm will be generated. The small clouds the pilots are attempting to navigate around abruptly become absorbed into the larger clouds, giving rise to a colossal storm cell. The approaching storm clouds are now spanning 20 kilometers or 12 miles in width, a development that was initially underestimated. Ewa, recognizing the risk of being drawn into the cumulonimbus if she flew beneath it, desperately strives to catch up and stay competitive. Ahead, she glimpses a hint of blue sky, but the full scale of the storm remains concealed from her vantage point. Engaging in paragliding competitions involves intense competition fueled by the pursuit of victory and the desire to push personal limits. The focus on adrenaline and emotions temporarily overshadows concerns for safety and life. For Ewa, it transforms into a race against time as she trails two Swiss pilots about 500 meters ahead. While the Swiss pilots successfully navigate between the growing clouds, Ewa, lagging behind, faces the inevitable merging of the clouds into an overwhelming force. The convergence of the clouds into one expansive mass becomes a point of no return for the affected pilots, resembling a colossal vacuum that elevates them to great heights, rendering them powerless to resist. At this juncture, Gerald, Zhongpin, and Ewa find themselves heading directly into the eye of the storm. The narrow path Ewa attempts to navigate between two separate cloud systems is rapidly disappearing as they merge. The cold air from both systems mixes with hot air from the ground, causing a massive thermal uplift. Suddenly, Ewa is sent hurtling upwards. Despite her years of experience, she can't control the parachute. The horrifying realization hits her. She's being sucked right into the clouds. Suddenly, I hit very strong lifts, and it sucked me into the clouds. You can feel the glider pulling you up, and I felt pressed in my harness, and I was just going up very fast, Ewa stated. Cloud suck, a known phenomenon for paragliders, becomes more intense with storm clouds. Gigantic hailstones begin to smack into Ewa's face. Trying not to panic, she initiates an emergency descent maneuver, spiraling, the safest way to lose height quickly. She brakes sharply on one side and shifts her weight in the same direction, pointing the glider to the ground. This should allow her parachute to lock into a tight rotation, delivering her downwards at speeds of 20 meters or 65 feet per second. The G-force exerted on a pilot during a spiral puts them under incredible stress. It's a last resort. So I started spiraling, which helps to climb down faster. But the climb ratio was even higher than my spiral ratio. So after maybe 2 or 3 minutes, I just gave up because I was turning so fast, trying really with all my possibilities to go down, Ewa said. Meanwhile, Gerald is also caught in the storm and realizes the dire situation. My heart was beating because I knew that we are now in a big shit and we have to go down as fast as we can. I saw Ewa on the left side of my field of vision. She made this barrel for 1 or 2 minutes, but then the wind was so strong that it was like a hand picked her up and took her out, he recalled. Moments later, Gerald sees Zhongpin also sucked into the storm, luckily popped out the side of the storm. He was just on the edge of the big storm that sucked up the 2 other pilots. It was a chance of good luck. I was out of the cloud, I saw a farm and a landing field, and I was sure I could make it. Landing near some old farm buildings, Gerald is forced to shelter from the fierce lightning storm. I ran to the shelter. The lightning was so strong and the wind was blowing, and we realized we may have a problem with the lightning. It was, for me, the biggest and the strongest thunderstorm that I ever saw. I was sure that Ewa and the Chinese pilot would have a big problem. They may not make it, Gerald said. Gerald makes contact with the Austrian team leader and gives him his coordinates. He was worried about Ewa on Zhongping, but knew it would have to wait until after the storm. After his adrenaline ceased and he was in relative safety inside a barn with other members of the Austrian team, he was coming to terms with what just happened, having narrowly escaped the storm cell. Gerald is now acutely aware of the danger facing Ewa and Zhongping. Meanwhile, Ewa finds herself in an extremely precarious situation. The storm is forcefully pulling her upward at a rate exceeding 30 meters or 100 feet per second, still spiraling wildly. She is drawn into the darkness above, unable to see anything but assuming that the two pilots who were with her must be nearby and in similar jeopardy. I was very scared to be inside this thunderstorm. It's like you are in the middle of the ocean, and suddenly you have 100 sharks around you. You cannot do anything, she expressed. The only recourse for Ewa is to maintain the glider's flow, given the pitch-black environment where she has no idea about her position relative to the wing. A few hundred meters away, Zhongping has valiantly reached the edge of the storm cell, nearing an escape and demonstrating exceptional control in the unfolding disaster. However, lightning strikes him, rendering his body lifeless. Zhongping, now at the mercy of the thunderstorm, faces sudden flashes of lightning, blinding and deafening, rupturing the darkness around Ewa. Electric bolts of 30,000 degrees white heat leap from cloud to cloud, briefly illuminating the maelstrom around her, revealing a blizzard of driving rain and hail. Aside from the looming threat of being struck by lightning, Ewa, clad in thin clothes suitable for the Australian summer on the ground, is thousands of meters in the sky, being pummeled by the elements. The absence of protective clothing alone could mean a fatal outcome. So I was really praying, if there are some angels or God, please help me. I was really hoping and believing it's going to be all right, she recounted. Simultaneously, the team leader, Stefan Mast, remains oblivious to the peril Ewa faces. At that moment, he is unaware of her whereabouts, knowing only that she is far ahead of his position. Struggling against heavy rain and thunder while driving, he cannot spot her as he looks up into the sky. In a desperate attempt, Ewa manages to contact her support team and communicates that she is 5,000 meters or 16,000 feet in the sky, grappling with extreme weather conditions. Shortly after, the phone shuts off, intensifying Stefan's worry. After there was no response anymore, it was clear that this situation has a big potential, that this pilot will be the first I cannot bring back alive, he recalled. The troposphere, Earth's lowest atmospheric layer, provides vital oxygen for human survival. In mountaineering, beyond 7,000 meters or 23,000 feet is deemed the death zone, where the body consumes oxygen more rapidly than it can be replenished. In paragliding, no one has ever surpassed 7,000 meters and survived. Fatalities occurred at 6,000 meters and 5,000 meters in the past due to turbulence, hailstones, oxygen deficiency, and hypothermia. As Ewa's vision darkens and her strength depletes, she becomes increasingly unable to resist the storm's onslaught. Ewa has ascended to an altitude of nearly 7,000 meters, just below the perilous death zone. Her GPS device registered astonishing climb rates, surpassing 40 meters or 130 feet per second at times, an extraordinary feat. Rapidly elevated to such heights, she had only a brief 2-minute window to acclimatize to the thinning atmosphere and scarce oxygen. The temperature plummeted to a bone-chilling minus 40 degrees. Subsequently, Ewa lost consciousness and control of her glider, hurtling through the storm at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. Her track log indicated an altitude of 9,946 meters or 32,631 feet, exceeding Mount Everest by over a kilometer, placing her at the very edge of the stratosphere. Exposed to temperatures as low as minus 55 degrees, Ewa's body has entered a hibernating state, with the glider keeping her afloat at the top of the storm cloud where the air was less turbulent. Fortunately, the glider's inherent stability, owing to a pendulous design, meant it didn't require active piloting inputs. Despite the dangerous conditions, Ewa's blackout wasn't as perilous due to the glider's stability. The freezing temperature slowed her metabolism, redirecting resources to maintain essential organ functions with the limited oxygen available. Typically, survival at such altitudes is measured in seconds, but Ewa, lacking specialized gear and life support, defied the odds 10 kilometers or 6 miles above Earth. Her precarious situation necessitated a swift descent to lower altitudes before the combined effects of low temperature and oxygen depletion became fatal. For nearly 45 minutes, Ewa has been hovering at the fringe of the stratosphere, an altitude where no human has survived for such a prolonged duration. The risk of brain damage and organ failure looms large. Suspended over 30,000 feet, or 9,000 meters, covered in ice crystals atop the storm cloud, she relies on a 6-kilogram nylon paraglider. Slumped unconscious, her body leans to one side, causing the glider to initiate a prolonged, languid turn, as evident from a track log on the ground. Battling temperatures of minus 55 degrees, her wing ices over, and her harness becomes laden with hail. Suddenly, the wing stalls and collapses, hurtling through a thin atmosphere at speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. Faster than typical free fall at lower levels, she faces an imminent and perilous descent. After plummeting nearly 3,000 meters, something miraculous happens. At approximately 6,900 meters, or 22,600 feet, the glider reopens and autonomously resumes flight. With an increased atmosphere, more oxygen, and milder conditions, her body revives, offering her a final opportunity to escape the menacing storm. Upon regaining consciousness, Ewa, unsure of the duration of her unconsciousness, checks the GPS altitude display. Still at 6,900 meters, positioned just below the death zone, disoriented within a thick cloud and hampered by ice-covered gliders, Ewa grapples with severe cold. At the storm's edge, she teeters on the brink of being drawn back into the storm cell. The ordeal is far from over, and her safe descent to the ground remains a critical challenge. Despite potential delirium, Ewa's instincts and experience come into play. She maintains focus, battling the elements and making sound decisions. Her determination and skillful piloting, even in such adverse circumstances, prove essential to her survival. I knew I was so close to that, and the only people I was thinking about were my parents. I couldn't imagine my parents if I would die there, and I was praying. No, please, not here. Not now. I had to focus on survival and to concentrate on what I can do. It was so cold that I realized I had to do something to get down faster. Otherwise, I will not survive. And I decided to take a soft spiral down. It's still a long flight to come down. I knew that the glider was full of water and ice, and it would be very dangerous. I was fighting. I knew I would never give up, and it was actually the only thing to concentrate on. What I can do and don't give up, Wiśnierska recalled. In the aftermath, He Jong-pin's lifeless body was discovered 4 kilometers away from the initial storm encounter, the fatal result of a lightning strike that claimed his life instantly. Meanwhile, 20 minutes post-storm, the Austrian pilots, who had sought refuge in a barn, were retrieved by their team leader, Gerald, who, unaware of Jong-pin's fate, urgently rushed to locate the missing aviators. Simultaneously, Ewa, peering through her frozen eyelashes, at last glimpses land. A farm comes into view, and she sets her sights on landing nearby. Despite the numbness in her hands through the gloves, she summons a final surge of courage. Homing in on a paddock as a potential landing area, she gracefully descends to safety. The full gravity of her harrowing experience has yet to register. When I came out of the cloud, I stopped circling, stopped the spiral, and I knew now that I had to concentrate on landing safely. I just had to make one turn against the wind and could really land safely. When I was in the final glide, I just let the wind fly. And in the last second, I pulled the brakes, and I touched the ground very softly. And when the glider fell down, I knew I had survived, and it was really great, and I felt very thankful. I didn't care about how long it will take to get home or if somebody is going to find me. I knew I survived, and this was the most important. But I was so freezing that I was just thinking, what can I do to get warm? I tried to get up to get warm, but I was too tired, so I just curled up. I tried again to use my radio, because I thought it was warmer, thinking it may work now. But it didn't work at all. Suddenly I could hear my mobile phone. I forgot completely that I had it with me. When I found it in my jacket, I could hear Andreas, but the connection cut out. The reception was not perfect. So I decided to write the coordinates for my GPS in a text message and send them when I have reception again, Ewa recalled. To Ewa's astonishment, her phone rang again and she could hear Andreas on the line. "I'm cold, please hurry," she weakly uttered, aware that help was on its way. Though Ewa had survived the storm, she remained in jeopardy. Her teammates still needed to pinpoint her exact location, and her core body temperature had dropped below the level necessary for normal bodily functions, putting her at risk of succumbing before assistance arrived. The Germans suddenly realized that Gerald and the Austrian team were merely 20 kilometers or 12 miles from Ewa's location and directed them to her coordinates. When I found out that Ewa was alive, I felt compelled to get there as quickly as I could. I thought the chance of her still being alive was very small, Gerald remarked. Within 30 minutes of the call, Gerald and the Austrian team reached Ewa's location, where they were shocked to find her paraglider still intact, the harness filled with ice and hailstones. They assisted her into the car and rushed her to the nearest hospital. Ewa checked her GPS in the back seat and was stunned to discover that the altimeter had recorded an altitude of nearly 10,000 meters, or 33,000 feet. When I returned to Germany, the maker of the GPS device invited me to the office because he couldn't believe the instrument accurately recorded the flight at such altitude and in those conditions with minus 50 degrees. So, he asked me to bring the GPS and he downloaded the flight. After checking the data, he was astonished to see that I was even higher than 10,000 meters, she recounted. Ewa was discharged from the hospital shortly after arrival, with only visible frostbite on her ears and legs. Doctors marveled at her survival at such altitudes, noting that her oxygen levels were normal. News of Ewa's miraculous flight spread globally, though the euphoria was tempered by the tragic death of He Jong-pin. The close-knit paragliding community was left in shock. Ewa, learning that the distance between her and Jong-pin was only 500 meters, knew she was exceptionally fortunate to be alive. Shockingly, 6 days later, Ewa returned to the air to do what she loved. It was one day before the World Championships started, and I wanted to participate. And well, when I took off again, it was beautiful, almost like the first flight. It felt fantastic, she said. Ewa walked away from the disasters virtually unscathed physically, but the memory of her colleague Jong-pin remained with her. It gave her a new perspective on life and on competition. She resolves not to take unnecessary risks in the future. I knew that what happened was the result of my mistake, and I know in the future I have to make my decisions for myself and not look at what the others are doing. I know this will never happen again, she proclaimed. Ewa made her way back to the summit of Mount Bora, with TV crews crowding the area, wanting to witness this miraculous woman retake the air. Most people would never fly again after that. And within a week, there she was, doing what she loved most, in the same glider as she used a week before. When recalling why she went back to paragliding so quickly, Ewa felt a sense of purpose. She recalled, "I wanted to be alone and to have my peace. I had to think about Jong-pin. I couldn't understand why I survived and he didn't. But then I knew, okay, I was lucky. Maybe I have some special reason to stay in this world." Despite its breathtaking allure, paragliding conceals a perilous reality beneath its wings. The sport, in its pursuit of adrenaline and freedom, unforgivingly exposes enthusiasts to a litany of life-threatening hazards. Cloud suck is a potentially hazardous situation for paragliders, hang gliders, and sailplane pilots. It occurs when powerful thermal updrafts beneath cumulus clouds, particularly towering cumulus or cumulonimbus, rapidly pull the aircraft upward. Cloud height is a strong indicator of updraft strength and cloud suck potential. This phenomenon is most common in humid, low-pressure conditions. Thorough pre-flight weather analysis is essential. Do not fly if thunderstorms or significant cloud development are predicted. Maintain constant cloud observation. If a cloud exhibits rapid vertical growth, steer clear. Maintain composure. Panicked reactions can worsen the situation. Initiate immediate descent. Employ your speed bar or spiral techniques to rapidly lose altitude and escape the updraft. Exercise precise glider control. Perform smooth maneuvers and avoid abrupt inputs. Utilize instrumentation. Refer to your altimeter and variometer to track your altitude and descent rate. Maintain situational awareness. If visibility is reduced, fly defensively and use available navigation aids, such as a GPS device and altimeter. Reserve parachute deployment is a last resort. Consider this option only if controlled descent is impossible. If you are uncertain about weather conditions or your ability to manage cloud suck, err on the side of caution. Consult with experienced pilots or instructors before flying. Crucial information so that you can navigate an outdoor disaster. Thank you for watching. Want more outdoor disaster content? Check out these stories I believe you'll enjoy.